and welcome again. If you were lucky enough to have a dog when you were a child, you can appreciate how much the benefit of having a dog when you're a young kid can bring into your life. So today I want to talk to you about the other side of that coin, which is the things that most parents need to know about the interactions between the family dog and their child. Dogs are, as I said before, wonderful companions for kids. They can teach them responsibility, and also they're great opportunities to teach kids about empathy. And of course, this is qualities that hopefully a parent can help the kid understand as it's interacting with the dog as well. Kids and dogs are not always the perfect match. And the reason for that is because kids by nature are really unpredictable. They run, they are moving fast, moving in ways that are erratic. And from the perspective of the dog, this could be seen as a threat. Also, a lot of the times, especially younger kids might feel unsafe when in the presence of a dog. They don't necessarily understand what the dog is doing, and they might respond accordingly, which could bring a real situation that could be manageable if an adult was in the room to something that actually escalates. I want to share with you some statistics that are very sobering. As you would see, 70% of dog bites are to children under 10 years of age. More than 60% of those bites are occurring to children that are boys. And 87% are white. Now, 61% of children are bitten when they come in contact with some of the dog's possessions, such as when the dog is eating, chewing on a bone, or even a toy. Also, most of those injuries are going to take place on the head or the neck area, and especially on the cheeks. And most of the bites are produced by large dogs. Now, 2/3 of the dogs that actually bite a child were first-time offenders. So this tells us that it is in our preview or parents to be able to help that relationship so that we don't have dogs biting as a result of feeling threatened by a situation with their child. When I talk about teaching a child empathy for a dog, what I mean concretely is that we need to teach children that dogs have feelings. Dogs can hurt. Dogs can be feeling concerned or afraid, just like the kid might. And one of the best ways to do this is to teach the kid to respect the dog. So concrete things that you can immediately teach your child is not to ride the dog as if it was a horse. Dogs are not horses. They should not be ridden. Regardless of the size of the dog, of course. It doesn't matter that it's a really large dog and a small kid. I've seen so many videos where there is a child riding a dog and the face of the kid is so close to that dog's face that it just makes me want to look away. Also, teach your kid not to hit the dog ever, not pulling on its ears, the tail, no hugging. Hugging is a primate behavior and dogs are not private. So hugging, i.e. putting our hands around a dog's neck, is seen as a dog as a threat or potentially as a threat. We want to avoid that. There are better and safer ways for your child to interact with your dog. So it's okay to pet the dog. I recommend not petting on the head. And again, no hugging. It is best to have the hand of the child be somewhere that the dog can see it instead of surprising the dog by petting it on its head. If you have a small dog, I strongly recommend that you do not allow your kid to just pick up that dog. Little dogs are actually quite fragile. They can fall. And also, they don't necessarily like to be picked up. Think about it. We're coming from a position of being erect and folding over a small dog. And even if a child is small, that feels really scary. So my strong recommendation if you have a small dog is that you have your child sit and then hold the dog in a sitting position. It's going to be safer for the dog, and again, it could really teach the kid to treat the small dog gently. Also, I strongly recommend that no children under age of 12 is left unattended with a dog ever. Things can happen very, very rapidly. And I do know of cases where the parent thought that it was going to be safe. They even said that they trusted the dog, and it was so quick. Unfortunately, when children are so young, they cannot even tell us what happened when the parent left the room. The other thing that I like to recommend parents is to give their dog a safe space. It could be a crate if the dog is crate trained, or a bed. And we teach the kid not to interact with the dog when the dog is in its safe space. That way, the dog can learn that when it goes there, it's going to be left alone. Important also not to approach a dog when the dog is either eating, chewing on some item, or sleeping. It's important also to understand that dogs don't necessarily know which toys are theirs and which toys are the child's. And sometimes, let's pretend that it does know. It might be really attracted to a dog, a toy from a child because it smells like the child. So my strong recommendation is to teach the kid to keep their stuff in a place where the dog cannot access. You, as a bonus, you will be happier because your house is going to be cleaner too. You won't be having to pick up after your child so much. Now, one of the ways that I love to recommend to parents to teach their kids to interact with their dog, regardless of the age, the size of the dog, and of course this is most appropriate from children 6 and older, is to teach the kid to train the dog together. So, of course, we want to use friendly, gentle methods to do this. And it's important that the dog learns to take cues from the kid. A lot of the times I am called in because the dog is, quote unquote, not respecting the child and the child is afraid of the dog. So what I like to teach parents is to work with their kid so that the kid can teach the dog to sit as the child is approaching. And this is something that it does not take a lot of time. For the most part, it's really fun for the family. And also the dog is learning to take cues from a child. Another consideration is when you have your child's friends come over. Your dog might be used to the antics of your household, might be very comfortable with your own child or children. It is another conversation when there's more kids involved, potentially kids that either are not keen on a dog, how to react when a dog is present, or basically the dog is just not comfortable with them. So my strong recommendation is not to assume that the family dog is going to be comfortable with other children. This is really an exception. Dogs that are good with children are an exception, not the rules. So my recommendation is to really remove the dog from the activities of the children if they're coming over for a visit. Now, it is important to manage the situation by deciding ahead of time where the dog is going to be when the children are over. Have a plan and work your plan. If you try to do this when the party's taking place or people are arriving, you're not going to be successful and you might make things worse because you are already agitated and that could bring the dog's arousal level to a higher level. Also, if you decide that you do want the dog to be part of some of the interactions with the other kids, that's okay. That's on you and you get to decide that. But my strong recommendation again is to keep the dog on a leash so that there's some level of control and that you are rewarding your dog, perhaps with the dog's food or the tasty treats, for calm behaviors. Your dog might be sitting next to you, might be lying down, maybe on the sofa, whatever you decide. But it is important that we teach the dog, this is how we want you to behave when there is kids around. And if you choose to go this route, which I think is an excellent decision, you need to know that it is important to remove the dog from the interaction if the dog is getting too aroused. Again, remember that hectic behaviors can make your dog uncomfortable and bring arousal levels up. As a side note, arousal is not aggression. It's an autonomic response of the nervous system. However, so it's not under control of the dog. However, arousal can be a precedent to aggression. So we want to keep things calm and under control so that everybody has a safe and happy interaction with the family dog.